Hello.
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 I don't know how to do this. Welcome to an emergency episode of Hugo Girl. Not your regularly scheduled episode where we read Hugo Award-winning novels and sometimes other things, because Amy had a bunch of travel and Haley has a bunch of travel and the scheduling was hard and now Amy's not feeling well. So we're just going to put things off and we're going to release our episode of This Is How You Do the Time War in August. And then we'll do A Fire Upon the Deep in September. And today we have a special treat that we hope you'll enjoy. I'm Lori.
I'm Kevin.
And today we have edited our pilot episode.
Previously unreleased pilot episode.
Previously unreleased. So back in 2019, when Hugo Girl was just conceived, I'm not sure we've ever told this story on the show. Haley was going to do a blog, in fact, may have even started a blog called Hugo Girl, where she read the Hugo winners. And then she was dating somebody who did a book podcast who said, maybe you guys should do a podcast. And so we were like, maybe we should. And we got together and we did a test episode where we read and discussed Those Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. And it went pretty off the rails. The sound quality is pretty bad, but we had a good time and a podcast was born. And Kevin dedicated his day today on Sunday to trying to make it into something listenable. So how was that, buddy?
It was a not insignificant amount of work. It's a good proof of concept episode, still a lot of fun to listen to, but between the sound quality and having to edit out the now no longer with us.
Not dead,
but no.
Person we haven't spoken to in a long time and don't have their permission to use.
Yeah. So having to edit out the fourth person, I think it still flows pretty well. It might be a little choppy in places. If so, that is why. Sound quality wise, it was not a great source file to work with. So I apologize for that in advance, even though I had nothing to do with it. I'm just Canadian, so I'm sorry. But, I did my best. Took off some of the high end, so the terrible background noise and clipping is not so painful to listen to.
Thank you.
Somehow, even though it did not appear to be like extremely large waveforms, in Reaper, it peaked at +6 decibels, which...
For the lay persons in the crowd, such as myself, what does that mean?
That means normally the maximum volume that things start clipping at is referred to as 0, and normally you want to keep your peaks in audio like -10.
Oh.
And so this went 6 over.
Oh my.
Somehow.
Oh my. So
that's what we're working with. Yeah, this is like if you bought a DVD or Blu-ray and it comes with some special features. This is the work print version of Hugo Girl.
That's fun. I like that, the work print version.
Yeah.
Kevin, are you familiar with the Ani DiFranco double disc album Living in Clip?
Shockingly, I am not.
Oh, well, at one point they're like, the amps are like living in clip, man. Is that what we were doing?
Almost entirely.
Well, then we're just cool like Ani DiFranco. I love it.
So speaking of sound quality, what was the recording setup?
So we were at person number 4's apartment, sitting around the kitchen table, and we had those little like lavalier microphones that you pin on your clothes.
I can't recreate. I do wish I'd asked you this the first time on mic, because when you told me that, I said that is shocking. Just because of the other thing I didn't mention about the sound quality is just the great inconsistency in volume between speakers, and also it was all recorded as one mono track, whereas for the past few years we've been recording and mixing everyone in a separate track to make the mix down a little better.
Yeah, so he can mute us one at a time if need be.
Yeah,
if somebody farts really loud or something, he can just take that out of their track.
Well, that picks up in every microphone.
Oh.
There's no, yeah. So.
Oops. Sorry, everybody. Well, I was wondering if it might be different, like if everybody's wearing a shirt with a different collar and you pin it like to a tank top versus a t-shirt, then maybe your microphone is at a dramatically different distance.
Yeah, probably. I don't have any direct experience with lav mics, so I don't know how well or poorly they work. But.
I felt very fancy wearing one, like I was a TV host or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about your experience?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just hope it's listenable.
I'm sure you'll forgive us. Anyway, sorry for the change in schedule, and hope you enjoy this. I love you, like you. Bye.
Bye.
So this is the inaugural recording of, actually I think that's Hugo Girl? Hugo Girl.
No, it's like that.
I guess that's two. So that is 2 votes for Hugo Girl.
Do y'all know about English?
Hugo Girl.
Very clearly a comma. It's Hugo Girl. No, it's Hugo. You have
but you still need a comma in Hugo Girl. Girl is still a noun of direct address, and it needs a comma.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lori.
I'm Haley.
My understanding is that this is a podcast where we will read works of science fiction written by women that have also won the Hugo Award.
My understanding is that we're reading Hugo Award-winning works, regardless of who they're written by, and reading them from a feminist standpoint, though.
I don't want to read anything by men.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We can talk with awe with the women and then tear down the men.
Oh, I don't care. I just only halfway read the text about it, so I was
The name comes from one of my periods of unemployment when I was doing document review. I made a WordPress 6 years ago, and I was going to just try and read every other books and then kind of blog about them, but I never did. But the name's been sticking in my head for 6 years.
I didn't know that.
I also have one about watching Westerns that I did 2 entries in, How the West Was Blogged.
Yes!
That's pretty clever.
They were good entries.
I'm a copywriter. This is what I do. They pay me to do this now.
Well, I'm not picky. I can't do that. I can't come up with cute titles.
Maybe it was The Good, the Blog, and the Ugly. I forget.
Oh, I like that.
It's How the West Was Blogged. Yeah, that's right.
That's okay. You can rename it. Yeah. We can go
I watched
forward.
one movie.
You can rebrand.
That's true.
Yeah. No one knows. All right. So, the ones who walk away from
Omelas.
Omelas?
Nope, I looked it up.
It was Omelas.
It's Omelas.
Omelas.
She said she looked it up. I believe her. Omelas.
You looked it up? Omelas. All right. By Ursula Le Guin.
Oh, I did not know that her middle name was Krober. I thought it was just K.
Lost.
Ursula Krober.
Krober?
She's from Chicago.
I think it's like Krube. Krube.
I think it actually wouldn't that be Kreber? O-E? Oh, no. Like fetus?
It's just K.
Should we start spelling of fetus? With a yes or no question, have you read anything else by Ursula K. Le Guin? I have.
Yes.
What, did you ever read The Wizard of Earthsea? Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
yeah. I like her a lot.
So
those are the 2 I've read. I've read The Wizard of Earth and I've read The Dispossessed. I have a lot of thoughts on this. Should we recap the story? I can recap it real fast. I mean, it's pretty simple. Okay, so the story is about a idealistic city and region, I guess, where all the citizens are happy, all the men are smart, and all the women are good looking, or whatever it is.
And all the women are above average.
Yeah, but if you want them
basically
to,
like Wobegon with
shining towers and sparkling
and no sexual harassment.
It was no sexual harassment. But the only way that this place can exist and continue to be perfect is if one child suffers forever. Mm-hmm. And the people of Omelas know that they are succeeding at the expense of one innocent person, and some choose to live with that. Most choose to live with that knowledge, and then some choose to leave and seek some sort of inner peace instead of living at the expense of the child. But interestingly, no one chooses to save the child because they don't want to sacrifice the town either.
So the idea is, though, that if they save that one child, then everyone will experience suffering. So it's like a cost-benefit.
Exactly. It's the trolley problem. It's the ultimate trolley. There's obviously some heavy themes in this, but the first, I hesitate to call this a paragraph. It's more like
it's literally
a half page of text with no breaks. And it's just, I wrote down the note, is this Whoville? Right. It's so shivering gong and tambourine and dancing.
That struck me too, because she doesn't normally write like this. She doesn't.
Here's the thing, is that I think you could get the entire meat of this story
starting with there's a kid in the basement.
I think you need this first paragraph because it's supposed to be over the top perfect. Like, it's supposed to suck you into this.
But it takes me out of it because she says stuff like, if you want. If you don't want, think about an orgy.
But that's later. Later.
Well, yeah, but
Also,
just like the
part of
same
that orgy part was an interesting aside.
Yeah, it took me out of it a little bit, so.
I think that's the point.
I did like the idea of the drugs that, like, don't worry, you'll just get a buzz, you won't get addicted, you won't have a hangover. It's just like
the perfect
nice,
drug.
pleasant buzz. Yeah.
I could write a paper on this in high school, only reading the last 3 paragraphs. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I don't think it added to my.
So you just didn't like the way she
Haley's
wrote
in
it.
like copywriter mode, like pare it down, trim the fat. I don't.
Yeah,
what's
this is
the
not supposed to be the shortest route to the end. That is not
I
the
know,
point.
Which is funny because this is like a 3-page story.
You're right.
So I
don't know.
shudder to think what you're going to say when we get to a
Oh,
full
also,
book.
we should say that this. Did we say that this short story?
For our listeners at home, Amy keeps leaning over whatever the thing is that Karen has plugged all our mics into and talking into it, and as though it were a mic, and it doesn't look like one at all. So it's
like
just, it's really
extension cord.
a curious thing to do.
I forgot to tell you guys that I hate short stories.
I love them.
No.
They are one of my favorite
No, see,
things.
I love extraneous details. I just read an 800-page book about an Arctic expedition, and all it's mainly about bread.
You know I'll read an epic too.
Yeah.
What
year did this win the Hugo?
I don't know. 73.
Because she uses the phrase,
The banality of evil. Oh, I looked it up and I saw
Aw.
it and I was like, that's the second time in my life that I've seen that name. And
so see,
the
if you
first
didn't
time
have the first 2 paragraphs, you wouldn't have the banality of evil, and then where would you be, Haley?
It's fine.
So I want.
She's usually right, though.
I
It's weird.
am probably maybe an unpopular opinion. Who's read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson? What is this? Because if not The Lottery, 20 years later.
I don't know the lottery.
Okay, I have a summary for you.
Let me guess what it is. Is
Okay.
that Shirley Jackson? Is
Yeah.
it a thing where there's a lottery where someone has to get killed so the city does well?
Yeah, but they stone the person. So there's a
Ooh.
short
I think there's
film.
a big difference between.
I mean, there's definitely a difference, but I still think the premise is basically the same.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You can take something and run with it. It's fine, but
Which came first?
Ursula did.
The
So
Lottery.
Shirley Jackson, that was in the 50s.
Yeah.
So they are all like, oh, we're going to the festival, and everyone's
This is
like
the best
super
day
happy,
ever, I'm all
best day
dressed
ever.
up.
And then you're like, why are they all picking up rocks? Like everyone's picking up rocks along the way. There are a lot of rocks.
Were they
in this
visitors?
town.
Did they not know about
No,
it?
they live there. Yeah, and so
like the Hunger
everybody's
Games.
picking up
Or like the
rocks.
Death
Yeah,
Games.
so everybody's picking up
Which are
rocks,
the
and they're
Hunger
going, and the little kids are picking up rocks, and they're so happy. I don't know if it's a number or name or what, but then one of them's getting stoned, and they're all like, yeah, they're so happy, and they're stoning the one person, and that's what maintains the prosperity in this happy town.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, Shirley did it 20 years
No, that's a
later.
huge.
Well, this is
They're very similar.
yeah, we get upset when we see it as one person, but like in real life, it's one person.
Yeah.
And there's people that we
It
don't
was,
see.
you know, and I've read things before that it's like when there's, you can't wrap your mind around to an empathetic degree. Like if there's millions of people who die, like it's harder to sympathize with that than
Literally,
it is
if you show
if you read
two-
about
if you show-
one. And I think it's a significant difference that the villagers in the lottery are taking an active role in the destruction of someone. And in this book, in this story, they're taking a passive but knowledgeable role. And I think that's why this resonates with me more. Because of what you were just saying about like privilege and and you know, like you buy your clothes made in China, like some kid in a factory somewhere is making suffering in this way.
Right,
It's like that Good Place thing.
Yeah, it is exactly.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about it too. And so I think this resonates with me more than the lottery did, just because the lottery seems sort of like a horror story that you would never do.
So, like, so this town lives because they stone people, but, like, is it a surprise to the people every
No,
year?
that's-
No. That's why they're all like,
They're
yeah,
not-
I'm gonna
okay,
go get my rock. I'm really gonna brain somebody. But then the somebody, it's funny because I think you see the person in the short film like pick up a rock and all like, yay, I picked up my rock. And then like that person gets picked and they're like,
No.
whoa.
Made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to consider, like, if we at this table could take all of the suffering we are ever going to experience in our entire lives and put it in one vessel and put that vessel away and never have to think about it or look at it or not. We may think about it, but never have to like deal with it. And we could live the rest of our lives without any pain, any problems, anything going wrong at all. Like, I think it bears some significant thought about whether we would take that option.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind I would take it.
What if the vessel is my own stomach? And that's actually what I do.
Well, I think the idea is it doesn't pain you. Whatever vessel you
Stomach
choose.
always comes back to get you.
I would also go into the Matrix if I could be like rich in the Matrix.
So I think you say you would do it, but I don't think you would. I think if you were faced with an actual person and you had to make that person suffer, you wouldn't do it.
I would also press that button where someone in the world dies.
I think if you didn't see them, you might. But I think if you had to
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be like kill Lori, but I wouldn't do it if Lori.
the conceit?
I wouldn't do it if Lori. But if like somebody in Mongolia,
make it me.
because I love Lori and I don't love a stranger in Mongolia.
This is the second podcast in 2 days where someone said something so nice about me.
I would not kill my
Listeners at
best
home
friend.
yesterday, it was about a really good cake that I made on a podcast called My Dish.
I mean, I fully recognize that it's wrong and immoral, but like, I'm not going to see that person.
If it was someone I never had to see, I might do it.
Someone on the internet said that this is an unreliable narrator.
There's a narrator.
I think that's right, though, because the narrator is like, you want an orgy? Okay, there are orgies. Oh, you don't like orgies? Oh, there aren't orgies.
It's like Genie from Aladdin. He's like, boob, you don't want it?
If it's whatever I want, then I want the kid to be out of the creep hole and have a pony.
My question is it always the same kid? Because like kids grow up.
I wondered that, too.
I'm assuming the kid grows up and they put another kid in the basement.
Yeah.
Or is it a perpetual 6-year-old?
Because this kid was old enough. This kid wasn't put in here until after they were old enough to see the light and remember their mother's voice, like all this stuff. So they were not a baby when they were put in.
I thought a lot about the cornmeal mush that I would eat, and I googled cornmeal.
Did you make any?
Wait, no. Does it say cornmeal mush? Or, I like
it's cornmeal mush and oil or grease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Was
expect
it
you
cooked?
to...
Was it just like-
a half bowl of cornmeal and grease a day. I think it's just cornmeal and grease.
I actually googled it before, but unrelated to this podcast.
Cornmeal and grease, it is gluten-free hardtack.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The Omelasians invented gluten-free.
My last batch of hardtack, I didn't cook hard enough, and it's chewy.
It's soft tack.
They all understand that their happiness
They know.
depends wholly on this child's abominable misery, but it doesn't necessarily say that that's true.
Yeah, but then
It just says that's what they understand.
Is it causation? Is it correlation?
So that's an interesting comment on religion. Like, if you believe this thing, like everybody believes this thing is right.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who no longer believe in that religion and they take a hike. But the people who believe this are acting in this way because that's the tenets of their religion. So that, if you think of it in terms of religion, that makes me not believe a single thing about this story.
Did you know that 3 of us were English majors?
One time I took a women's studies class in college, and the first class was just watching the episode of The L Word where Kit and Bet's dad died and they have the funeral, and Gloria Steinem is there. And I think that is probably the worst episode of The L Word, and I immediately withdrew from the class.
I never took a single women's studies class, but I wrote every paper in English, French, and history classes from like a feminist perspective.
I took a women's studies class, and I remember I pissed off the whole class because my friend and I, for our last project, I wrote a children's book and she illustrated it, and it took us about an hour and a half. And everybody else had done these really elaborate projects, but it was a really good story. It was called Ms.
MS?
After the magazine?
No. My own. It was my own.
I had a similar experience in one of my women's studies classes where I wrote a paper, like a research paper at the end, and someone else, something like, I don't want to talk about it too much because what if she's among our listeners one day? And I don't want to call her out, but basically,
We support women.
she did like a craft project where she cut a bunch of pictures and words out of a magazine and glued them to a thing and was like, this represents my feelings about this particular thing that happened. And I was just like, I'm looking down at like my typed in double space.
Like your footnotes.
Work, and I was like,
Lori, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
the footnotes are the master's tools. I actually think endnotes are the master's tools.
I wrote my final paper in college about Paris in the 1860s, and I presented a
I'll
poem.
be surprised.
So it was based on Walter Benjamin's The Arcades Project. Basically, Paris in the 1860s was like a really cool place and also a really awful place, especially for women and like kids. Yeah, so I created a fake vacation kind of pamphlet, but like in paper form of like, you should come to Paris. We have this, this, this. And then every single fact was footnoted with a really dark footnote. Like, actually,
that's hot.
most of these women are prostitutes. Boop, boop. I got an A in that class.
I would give you an A too.
Let me read you another quote that I liked from the beginning. Just
text.
from the beginning.
Turn to the text.
from the beginning, that is mainly just word play.
Wordplay is my favorite foreplay.
Notice how none of us have been discussing in detail the choose your own adventure description of a parade. But I like this one. The trouble is that we have a bad habit encouraged by pedants and sophisticates of considering happiness as something rather stupid. Only pain is intellectual.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I enjoyed that.
Oh, this is in the second
I
paragraph.
like this part
Also,
where it
did
says,
you know
"Your lives are not wretched."
Yeah.
I think she does protest too much.
Who what?
She goes out of her way to say that they're not bad people, but then she's like, but they're bad people.
But they're just people. That's the whole idea of banality of evil. Is like evil isn't something that slinks out of the mire and has demon eyes. I mean, this is both evil and just perfectly normal.
You don't think it's a ringing condemnation of the people that don't walk away?
Nope.
The people who do walk away are the titular characters. So I think it's condemnation of them, too.
I didn't think about that until y'all said it tonight. I just thought the people that walked away were the good guys because they're like, fuck this shit, I'm out. They'd have to kill everyone in town for it to stop working.
Yep. So would anybody in town.
And so then is that child's life that's already like deformed and fucked
So the
up?
only thing that they're doing differently than the people in the town is they're not reaping the direct benefits. But at the same time, they are not choosing to live with the guilt any more than the people in the town are. This is people who don't recognize their privilege.
Like you're circling. This right here.
This right here. If I may return you all to the text.
I wrote this note. Sadly, we do this already to so many kids. We just don't profit from it.
We do.
We do.
Oh, we do.
Oh yeah, but not as explicitly. Like, I mean, like if we don't fund the schools, like, I mean, I guess other kids profit from better schools, but like this is like everyone's life is great if only this happens. Whereas like we have plenty of kids that just live in poverty.
It's not as black and white.
Yeah, it's a
in
little
our
bit.
lives.
I mean, yeah. Again, nothing is black and white.
Like we don't look at a child and go, that child must suffer so that I may.
Yeah, but we make schools based on property values, and that's.
But we also like most of those who come to see. I was going to see if it had anything. Some of them have come to see it. Others are content merely to know it is there.
I mean, I think this is something to walk away from a society that you don't agree with. Like, if you were really angry with America's racism, you could go somewhere better.
Provided you had
that's like
in our situation, there is no way for me to dismantle the the entire structure in which America functions. Like these people could literally just take this kid out of this room, and affect some change. I don't know. Who knows what the change would actually be? And that's the other thing I was thinking about.
But what if the change?
These people think that they remove this child from this room and expose them to the sunlight. They lose everything they have, but it doesn't necessarily. And the intimation is that what would come after would be awful, somehow awful. But it probably what would come would just be normal. Which I think is
people who have headaches and stuff.
Yeah. And what the problem is, to exchange all the goodness and grace of every life in Omelas for that single small improvement, to throw away the happiness of thousands for the chance of the happiness of one, that would be to let guilt within the walls. And so if the person who does it takes the kid with them, and nobody who stays in Omelas does that, they just put another kid in there and keep on going, would their lives just continue on because nobody there's guilty of anything? Yeah. Nobody there's feeling bad about this kid being down there. I
think it's more interesting to assume that like things would become terrible in poverty, people would die, because that makes you like that turns it more into the trolley problem. Like, I mean, like in reality, like it is not just one person's.
That made me think of something. What about the people who walk away from Omelas? What if they actually still carry this charm with them and their lives are fine wherever they go? And if someone
they just have
took the kid out, that they would start suffering wherever they are.
Yeah, I just think that's interesting.
So they are still benefiting from it. They're just not benefiting from it in the city.
I just like the classic trolley problem because I feel like maybe 25,000 is more important than one.
I don't know what you're saying. Are you saying Charlie or trolley? What are you saying?
The trolley
for
problem.
the listeners at home.
Yeah. So like the Good Place episode where it's like you're driving a trolley that's out of control.
Trolley.
Yeah,
I thought you were both saying Charlie.
Sorry.
So look, who's going in the basement?
We got off topic.
I just feel like you guys have actually convinced me that it's worth it to stick somebody in the basement. What?
I've been saying this with the beginning.
As long as it's only one person, we can stop mass incarceration. We just put one baby in the basement.
What if we stopped mass incarceration by putting one baby in the basement?
I would do it 100%. What if it's like a little asshole kid?
No kids.
It's got to be a sweet one. The kind that invites the old lady to Christmas dinner in a Publix commercial. That kind of kid.
I think I'm just a utilitarian. I mean, I would want to be the one that has to give them the cornmeal and grease, but like...
Here's the interesting thing about this is that they go on at length about how there's no suffering, everybody's perfectly happy, not a fucking thing is wrong because of this little engine of suffering, but there are a lot of people who are really uncomfortable and bothered by it. So it's interesting... Because how are they all perfectly happy when enough of them are bothered enough?
But then it says either they get over it or they go. People who stay in the town are ultimately fine.
So everyone who's bothered by it leaves.
That's the impression I got. Because either they're bothered by it for a while and then they work it out. However, which one of the ways she laid out, either they convince themselves that the child wouldn't be worth it, or they say, well, it's worth it to have one person suffer for everybody. Or they don't get over it and they go.
I mean, I see people on the street sometimes. One time I passed on the I-20, on the I-20 like exchange. There was like usually when I see like a homeless dude, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I've seen so many of them, but like I saw a homeless grandmother, and I just started crying.
Yeah.
And I was upset, but like I still went home and like had a beer and watched TV and I was fine. But like for like, I mean, I think we all feel these moments of like intense suffering, but there's nothing. I can't do anything to make that woman's life better. I mean, I could give her $50. I could give her $1,000.
Yeah,
but
there's like a brief compassion, and then
yeah, but like what can I do? I mean, like,
do?
can I write my senator and say we should support mental rights more? But yeah, but like that's still like I'm still gonna go home to my comfortable bed.
I would like to go around the table and everybody say what they get on their soapbox about.
I would save time if I say what I don't get on.
But like, we know that I have.
Tell each other what we get on our soapboxes about, because I think that's probably going to be more accurate.
Like what I think you get on your soapbox.
Yeah.
This friendship about to get real, y'all.
I don't know. If
I don't know if I'm ready. All right, I'm ready.
It's okay. We don't have to do this. Abort! Oh, we still can. We live in Georgia.
So it comes back to this because everybody has a thing that they get really fired up about, right? Something they feel very strongly morally about, but it's very hard, even when you feel the strongest about it, it's very hard to live very black and white and according to those terms, depending on what it is. Like, I mean, I'm sure there are exceptions to this, but like for mine would be buying books from Amazon, right? I have a very high soapbox about this, but I'll be darned if I didn't buy that alcohol book from Amazon. Because, like, I wanted it when I started my 30-day thing.
It's easy, yeah.
You know, it's easy. I knew I could get it. And they didn't deliver it in one day, so they gave me all my money back, and I still got to keep the book.
Oh, that's how you stick it to them.
So totally won.
You robbed the rich.
I did.
Well done.
And I gave to my poor alcoholic self. No, I'm not an alcoholic. So that's mine. Like, and I think it's interesting because, like, you know, we can talk a big game about people's morality and judge them. And
I don't know if I have any morals.
You're good.
I mean, I think I tried to be. I think what bugs me about some people that I argue with a lot, or that I'm presented with, is that, like, I have a hard time understanding inflexibility. Like, I believe there's exceptions to almost everything.
That's funny because I think you're inflexible about a lot of things. No, it's not a fight.
Well, like, I don't know if I get, like, on soapbox. It's not like, I definitely won't do this. I mean, I do a little bit of everything. I have a hard enough time just being happy, so, like, I like to read my books, I like my plant.
It's a bummer. Everything is terrible.
I don't think I walked away with any action items from this.
First kid you see going in the cellar.
I mean,
there's really nothing you do.
What is
that you do just because it's the right thing to do?
No.
I guess that's true. You run a girls rock camp.
Yeah. Maybe that's like how Laura doesn't volunteer because she works at a nonprofit 40 hours a week. Like I run.
I don't.
Oh, no, you do. I don't. The house. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. But like you said,
I work as a PGA hot dog seller for no pay.
You told me that once. You're like, I don't volunteer a lot.
I don't volunteer for
years ago. But like maybe that's how I mean, we all can't save the world every single day of our life. I mean,
I do my best.
I just don't get mad at corporations. I think that's like a big chunk of how people I know protest, and I just don't. So, like, I shop at 1 million corporations. So, I mean, I guess it's nice to.
That's an interesting point. I mean, that's
but you got to do what makes you feel good.
Well, it's almost impossible. Even people who get mad at corporations, it's almost impossible to avoid the ones you're mad at because you don't know where they get their little fingers. Yeah. But you care about those kids at Girls Rock Camp, and you run Girls Rock Camp because you care about those kids. It's not because you get some like big benefit out of Girls Rock Camp.
I get a free email address, and sometimes I got to get a Joan Jett record. No, I mean I do. I mean, like I think maybe that's just I do it all in one chunk.
None of us do anything all the time.
For me, my activism is just more action based. Like I guess
Haley's a doer.
I'm a doer. Like some people abstain from meat, and that affects it in different ways. It's like like I will contribute to less demand, but like to me, I don't. That doesn't speak.
You don't give up anything. You do stuff.
Yeah, but like some people, it's easier to do that. Like not everybody can go. I mean, I give a lot of time to rock camp.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like I think
like but that doesn't make it better or worse than somebody else's. I mean, like I contribute to factory farming on a daily basis, but like I also help with camp. So I don't know.
Well, but I think that's part of the point. Is like we all have stuff we do and then stuff that we don't do. Like yeah. I mean, like I like to recycle, but by God, I have thrown a can away.
Yeah.
What? No.
I mean, I don't go out of my way.
Monsanto. I know.
You sound like Titus.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
I don't go out of my way to recycle, but like if there's because there's just not one in my house, but like if there's one at work, I will use that one. I'm not a monster.
Even a cat.
So how do we wrap up a podcast? There's so much we didn't talk about.
I think we talked about all of it.
No, I guess I'm good.
We're all going to live in Omelas, right? It's fine.
This is a ripoff of the lottery.
I thought that first paragraph was extra.
I think it's really hard to live a moral life in the modern world.
Touche.
That was a good closer.
So in a dream world, I decided the theme song would be Ariana Grande singing the Star Wars theme song, but like just saying like the sounds the words make. So like do, but sexy. I don't think it's gonna work.
What?
The end.
So like, what if the podcast theme song was a Star Wars theme song? Like you can't obviously because of licensing
Can't
also.
afford that.
And it's also not just about Star Wars. But what if it was a lady singing the sound of the do 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 do, but like
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay.
but like sexy.
We can do it. Ready?
You go, girl. You go, girl. You go, girl. A hilarious podcast.
Was it NPR you were on with the Vidalia onions?
No, that was just a podcast. Okay. Southern Foodways Alliance.
She said, tastes like the soil is sown with molasses.
It's fun being friends with Lori because she never forgets anything.
It was like she got body snatched by Faulkner right before she started talking. That's exactly right.
My microwave has a dead bug in the display window. So I would be glad to give it to you and get a different one because I'm tired of looking at the dead bug.